This is the story of the short life of Gabby Barrett, a little miracle girl. Unfortunately, her last days were filled with horror and pain. It's hard to realize that the little girl had a loving extended family, but lived with monsters who tortured the 4-year-old angel to death. Candace Renee was the mother of Gabby Barrett. Candace endured a difficult childhood. When Candace was 4 years old, her mother left her with her alcoholic grandmother, which almost turned into a tragedy. Once, there was a fire in the house, and the girl was miraculously rescued from the burning house. She ended up with multiple third-degree burns and had to undergo multiple surgeries to make a full recovery. After the horrific incident, Candace was taken from her mother's care and went to live with a relative named Cynthia Diaz. Her mother and grandmother were also arrested and charged with second-degree criminal abuse for putting a baby's life in danger. In June 2000, Cynthia was given parental custody of Candace because her mother stopped communicating with her, providing no childcare, and eventually disappeared from her life. Her father, like her mother, disappeared from her life and did not provide his daughter with any parental support. After Cynthia became Candace's legal guardian, they moved from Kentucky to Michigan. Finally, Candace, who was already 7 years old at the time, was able to live with someone who really cared about her. Things were good for a while until Candace entered her teenage years, a time known for its challenges. In Candace's case, it was a period of bad decisions that affected her adult life as well. In her early 20s, Candace entered into a relationship with a young man named Kyle Barrett, and they had a daughter, Gabriel Renee Barrett, who was born on July 3, 2013. The family called the baby girl Gabby for short. At this time, the couple was living with Cynthia, but their relationship did not last long, and they separated in different directions when Gabby was just a few months old. Candace was left as a young single mom with a baby daughter. At this point, we can see that Gabby and her mother's childhoods began to line up, but there were differences. Gabby's father was involved in her life, as were his parents and sister. Gabby's grandparents enjoyed spending time with her and loved her very much. Later in 2015, Candace began a new relationship with Brad Edward Fields. Their relationship was serious enough for Candace to leave Cynthia's home and move in with him. The couple settled in a mobile home in Sumter Township, Michigan. But Candace forgot something. She forgot her daughter, Gabby. She decided to move in with Brad Fields and leave Gabby in the care of Cynthia, so she could enjoy her new life without her daughter getting in the way. Candace's new happiness and honeymoon period were short-lived. Barely a year into the new relationship, law enforcement officers responded to a domestic violence incident in Brad and Candace's mobile home. It turns out that Candace and Brad were engaged in some kind of altercation, and he chased her out of the home with a firearm. Candace ended up calling 911 after fleeing the home and told the dispatcher that Brad tried to harm her with the weapon, and the family dog was caught in the crossfire. He also managed to injure his leg while discharging the firearm. It's unclear whether the dog was okay after this incident. When officers arrived at the scene, the state of the home was unbelievable. The mobile home was covered in complete filth, dirty dishes, a clogged sink, messy bedrooms, and there was even a rabbit locked up in an unclean cage. Not to mention red stains on the floor due to Brad and the family dog's injury. The living conditions were absolutely dreadful. The officers also recovered a ton of weapons, including firearms, knives, and non-prescribed medications. 2 firearms were recovered from a hidden location in the home. One of them was unregistered, and the other had a scratched-out serial number. Initially, Brad was arrested and charged with domestic violence, but Candace had a sudden change of mind and decided to drop the charges against him, claiming that he was schizophrenic and wasn't taking his medication properly. Therefore, he wasn't in control of his actions. She also took responsibility for the 2 firearms found inside their home and was charged with altering firearms. Candace earned herself 2 years of probation. Brad wasn't charged with anything, not even for harming their family dog, or keeping their pet rabbit in unsanitary conditions, which was unforgivable. During this time, Candace had completely forgotten about Gabby. Yes, Candace was irresponsible and inattentive to her own child. On the other hand, Cynthia was a much better guardian for Gabby. This woman literally spent her entire life raising abandoned children. Gabby had a good and stable life when she was living with Cynthia, except when it was time for Gabby to be enrolled in preschool. Cynthia couldn't do it because she wasn't the kid's legal guardian. So Gabby had to move in with her mother, and unfortunately, her home life was not what she was used to. Sadly, Gabby was severely mistreated by her own mother and Brad. It was reported that Candace and Brad had another baby daughter named Zoe at the time. It is important to mention that Zoe was not mistreated or neglected at all. For some reason, Gabby became the target of their mistreatment in the family. Apparently, Gabby had a restroom issue at home, and sometimes she would soil herself. Keep in mind that she was only 4 years old. It's not uncommon for babies and toddlers to have restroom problems. But the weird thing was, Gabby only had this problem at home. According to her teachers, Gabby had no issue with using the restroom. Whenever she needed, and she had also been potty trained, it was speculated that Gabby's restroom issue came from stress due to mistreatment she had faced at home. To make matters worse, Brad and Candace physically punished her whenever she had an accident. They did horrifying and inhumane things to her as punishment, and even made her take unprescribed medication, which had horrible side effects. The amount of ill treatment and negligence continued to escalate over time. It's surprising how no one found out about their mistreatment of Gabby because of the marks that she had on her face. You'd expect someone to notice, but no one did. Gabby lost her life on January 1st, 2018, when the couple decided to leave her in a bathtub unattended. When they noticed that Gabby was unconscious, Candace called Cynthia to help her perform CPR on her daughter, which was pointless because Cynthia lived at least 30 minutes away. It's strange that they didn't call 911. The medics would have arrived much faster. Cynthia came in and tried to give Gabby CPR, but nothing worked. Eventually, all three of them decided to call emergency services. By the time emergency personnel arrived on the scene, Gabby had already passed away. Candace claimed that Gabby's death was caused by the water in the bathtub because she had a habit of taking long baths. That morning, she claimed her eldest daughter had gone to take a bath while she was in the kitchen preparing breakfast. About an hour later, she went to check on Gabby and found her unconscious, facing upward in the bath. Paramedics arriving on the scene reported finding a lot of red marks on Gabby's body. Additionally, there were no signs of water in her lungs, nor was her skin pruning, as would be expected if she had been taking a long bath. Something didn't add up. When officers arrived at the house, they saw that no one had performed CPR on Gabby, contrary to Cynthia's claims. There was no sign of water in the tub or on the bathroom floor. The only thing indicating Gabby had taken a bath was her wet hair. Law enforcement officers found the situation suspicious and asked to search the house, but Brad Fields would not allow them to do so. The death was ruled a homicide 2 days later by the Washtenaw County Medical Examiner, with evidence of multiple traumatic injuries indicating child abuse. Officers obtained a warrant, so they no longer needed Brad and Candace's permission to search their home and property. The police searched the house and found shocking evidence. The most gruesome discovery was scraps of hair with skin and individual pieces of melted skin hidden in the bathroom drain. Apparently, Brad was trying to destroy the evidence. DNA testing confirmed that the samples found were Gabby's. The results of the autopsy shocked everyone. Experts unanimously claimed they had never seen such brutality toward a little girl in their years of work. The list of injuries included 11 examples of physical abuse. It became obvious the girl was regularly beaten, dragged by her hair, and scalded with boiling water. Her toe was so badly burned that it had detached. Gabby's overall condition was terrible. She was critically weakened. Her teeth were almost completely rotted, and she had a huge dose of caffeine and amphetamine in her blood. Experts claimed the girl was in constant and excruciating pain. A petition was immediately drawn up to take custody of Zoe, who was 1 year old, and to terminate Candace Diaz's and Brad Field's parental rights. Police went to arrest Candace and Brad and found them leaving their home in an unknown direction. Another event occurred at the same time. Kyle Barrett, Gabby's father, 26 years old, had finished serving his sentence and was released 2 days after little Gabby's death. Kyle was not a hardened criminal and was not an overall bad person. Kyle genuinely loved his daughter and used to spend time with her before his sentence was handed down. He had previously taken her to his extended family, where she was loved by everyone. A whole album of pictures showed a smiling Gabby surrounded by her father's large family, confirming this. The last time Kyle had seen his daughter was in September. He had hoped to see her right after his release, but that hope was never meant to come true. I'm glad that they were caught. They deserve everything they get. They deserve torture 100 times worse than what they did to my daughter, Kyle said. On January 9th, Candace and Brad's car was spotted in southern Georgia, which ended with the couple's arrest outside of Lake Park by U.S. Marshals. Authorities also confiscated Candace and Brad's cell phones. Brad reset his cell phone to factory defaults, but they found numerous messages on Candace's phone to Brad confirming the abuse of little Gabby and the harm they regularly inflicted on the 4-year-old girl. Jeri and Deborah Barrett, Kyle's parents, not old and vibrant, organized Gabby's funeral, which took place on January 14th. Jeri and Deborah were very sorry to hear of their granddaughter's death. They said they hadn't seen Gabby in recent months, with Candace always finding excuses not to see them. Gabby's grandma, Jor Barrett, claims she would have taken her granddaughter in. I have 6 of my own. I would have loved to have had to raise Gabby and have her here today with us until Dad got on his feet to get her. Jeri Barrett, the grandfather, said about Candace and Brad, "If they want to fight and stay in Georgia, and they get the death penalty, I'm all for it." Jeri Barrett's wish did not come true. Candace and Brad, detained in Georgia, were extradited to Michigan, where they were charged with felony murder, second-degree murder, first-degree child abuse, and torture. Cynthia Diaz was called to court to speak about the death of her granddaughter. She told the court that Gabby lived with her until September 2017 when she started school. Recently, Candace had not allowed Cynthia to see Gabby until she called on the morning of January 1st, 2018, and asked Cynthia to urgently come and do CPR. Gabby's paternal grandmother and her aunt also testified at trial. They testified that Gabby was a cheerful and energetic girl while living with her grandmother, Cynthia Diaz. They showed a photo of Gabby surrounded by her large family, where the girl looked happy and perfectly healthy. Candace's defense attorney tried to soften the sentence and convince the court that Candace endured a difficult childhood and suffers from multiple mental illnesses. Diaz revealed that she has been diagnosed with bipolar disorder, post-traumatic stress disorder, depression, and anxiety. But Judge Vonda Evans had harsh words and a long prison sentence for Candace. When a woman gives birth, she's closer to death than life. Her body opens up to reveal another life. It is one of the most beautiful and fulfilling parts of being a woman. A mother's job is to train and nurture her child into adulthood. It's her gift to humanity, the gift of life. Another name for mom is God. It is through our actions that they learn to love themselves and others. When a child is murdered, the usual suspect is a parent or step-parent. It's called maternal filicide, and it's defined as a child murdered by the mother. It normally occurs for the following reasons. The mother thinks the child is better off dead. To get revenge on the father, the mother can't care for her child, or the mother has been abused and neglected as a child. But you killed your daughter for the love of a bum named Brad, an unemployed, drug-taking, manipulative loser. Your beautiful daughter Gabby was a sacrifice you gave that bum Brad to fulfill his sick and demonic sense of love and control. You and that monster systematically destroyed this beautiful child's spirit and body, but never her soul. You allowed him to put your child in a garbage bag when she wet herself, To give her drugs. Your response was, "Brad, beat her ass." What crime could this precious child commit that would warrant such severe punishment? None. You were more concerned about feeding Brad the bum than your own child. And after he showed you a video of him torturing your child in a garbage bag, your response was, "Do you want some McDonald's?" You were never a mother to your child. You are a female breeder who neglected your child for the love of a bum named Brad. In the animal kingdom, male lions only kill cubs that are not related to them, and then they impregnate the lioness with their offspring. This sick logic was practiced in the home of Brad the bum. He, with your aid, killed your child and spared Zoe, which is another word for love. I disagree with the prosecutor. She was never at harm, not Zoe, because you both wanted to get rid of the problem. And that problem was Gabby. On New Year's Eve, you both sent out visual cards of Zoe, Brad, and you saying, "Happy New Year." But the person missing was Gabby, because you knew that Gabby wasn't going to make it another year. There were no plans to have Gabby as a part of your new life. You assisted this monster in the drowning of your beautiful, precious gift. Never in my 21 years on the bench have I seen a child sustain the injuries inflicted upon her. Dental decay, burn injuries on her behind, vomit in her lungs, immersion burns from being placed in scalding hot water, and traumatic alopecia. Her hair was pulled out from her scalp while she was alive. When the police arrived, the bathtub was empty and appeared to be dry. According to you, she peed. But what the police found was that her eyes were open and hazy, with a milky film. She was cold to the touch. There was blood on her arms. She had several raw red burns on the back of her feet, arms, and hands, with flesh hanging from her feet. Officer Cox also observed the child's hair to have blood in it, and the hair was only slightly damp, with lumps on the back of her head. Your response was, "Well, you know she likes to be in the bathtub, so she ran a bath, and that's how she got scalded." When they asked why your child didn't have toenails and had bruises on her, your response was, "Because she sits in her own pits." You always have an excuse for somebody else's behavior, but never take responsibility for your own. What Mr. Wang said about what occurred to you as a child is very damaging, but that didn't give you the right to be a predator. The ultimate cause of death was septic shock. Her little body couldn't take any more abuse. But on New Year's Day, she was free. She died at the hands of a bum and an animal. The Something Township police were quick to act, sorting out the lies that you told. Anything to protect yourself. And what did you do when your family needed you? You fled. You took 38 minutes to call 911, but you took enough time to clean out the bathtub. Your baby's skin was found in a drain. You went to great lengths to hide it. It was due to the tireless efforts of law enforcement, putting together hundreds of hours of videos and text messages between you and Brad that led to your capture and conviction. Carol Gold, Karen Goldar, and attorney Elsie assembled all the evidence necessary for Gabby to tell her story. Her story was told and should serve as a warning to all the baby breeders silently torturing their children. In Wayne County, torture and child killings will be prosecuted to the fullest degree. It is fitting, as we embark on this holiday season, that you and Brad are where you both belong, behind bars, like the animals that you are. At this time, the court is going to commit you to the Michigan Department of Corrections for no less than 30 years and no more than 60 years. The court and the people agree to dismiss counts 1, 4, 5, and 6. The court will give you 330 days credit for time served. You have 42 days to appeal my decision. Now, I'm just going to make a request that her file be marked medical because she has ongoing, serious medical conditions, so the Department of Corrections can properly evaluate her once she arrives. The court will do that. Thank you. And what about the outstanding probation she's on? It's my understanding that that's set for a pretrial tomorrow. We ask that that be closed out in light of the sentence she's receiving today. Well, that's another judge's decision. The court is going to give you 30 to 60 years in the Michigan Department of Corrections and file the medical request. You have 330 days credit. But ma'am, there's nothing I can humanly give you that will equalize or excuse what you did to your child. Take her. One last thing. We ask restitution be set at 0 because that's what was recommended at pretrial. You have 42 days to appeal my decision. If you cannot afford an attorney, one will be appointed. The matter is set. Restitution is 0. That closes the matter. Thank you. Brad Fields was charged with felony murder, second-degree murder, first-degree child abuse, torture, and first- and second-degree child abuse in Gabby Barrett's death on New Year's Day. Brad told the court he was diagnosed with schizoaffective disorder, social anxiety, agoraphobia, and post-traumatic stress. His defense team even tried to shift the entire blame onto Candace, claiming that Brad had nothing to do with Gabby's death. But evidence proved a different story. On October 9, 2018, Brad Fields was found guilty on all charges following a jury trial before Wayne County Court Judge Vonda Evans and was sentenced to life in prison without parole. Now, the criminals are serving their sentences, but that has not diminished the family's grief. It turned out that Gabby had a loving father, grandparents, aunts, uncles, and cousins. Unfortunately, the existence of one cruel mother was enough for a wonderful childhood to be cut short by death. Rest in peace, little angel Gabby. I just wanted to say a big thank you to everyone who watched this video all the way through. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this case in the comments, and please don't forget to subscribe to my channel. I'd also like to send a special thank you to everyone who has donated to support my channel. Your support means the world to me and gives me the motivation to keep making new and interesting investigations for you, my wonderful viewers. Thank you all so much.